Welcome to our channel. In this video, we are going to learn about the first chapter of the Social Studies, 7th grade. The chapter name is Where, When and How the Medieval Period. As the lesson name itself says, where, when and how. Let's understand it first. Where refers where this medieval period history happened in the Indian subcontinent of the globe. When refers when it happened, from 647 CE to 1700 CE. How refers how the historians depend on the different sources to learn and reconstruct about the medieval period. Let us understand the terms that we are going to learn in this chapter. First, what is history and its classification? Second, what are the various terms used to describe the subcontinent? Third, the impact of geography on the medieval history. Fourth, the sources of information for the medieval history. Further going deep into the chapter, let us first understand what do you mean by history. History is the study of human past. It tells us about the rulers, their battles, their economy, and their occupations. To make the study of history easier, it is broadly divided into three main parts: ancient, medieval, and modern. Look at the timeline. It's showing the division of the Indian history into three main periods. First, ancient period is also called as a classic period, is taken to extend from rise of Indus Valley civilization to the death of Emperor Harshavardhan in 647 CE. Second, the medieval. Here, the medieval means Middle Age. It is taken to extend from 647 CE to about 1700 CE. It is the time when many Mughal empires started breaking up and the British began establishing their power in India. Since the medieval is a long, so to better understand, the historians has divided this medieval again into two parts: early medieval period and later medieval period. Early medieval period starts from 647 to 1200 CE, and later medieval period starts from 1200 to 1700 CE. Modern period, this extends from 700 CE to 1947, when the India achieved independence from British rule. What was the impact of geography on medieval history? However, most of the kingdoms came up after the death of Harsha, and they were constantly battling one another to establish their supremacy. This created the atmosphere of chaos and disunity. Many tribes from the Central Asia took advantage of this, and they started to invade India from the mountains in the northwest. The Vindhyas and Satpura ranges act as a divide between northern and southern India. Under powerful dynasties such as Cholas and Rashtrakutas, the Deccan and the South India prospered and evolved a unique culture. Further, since the kingdoms in the south, like those of Cholas and Pandyas, had a long coastal lines, they were able to develop the strong navies. This allowed the Cholas to extend their empire across the Indian Ocean to the islands of Sri Lanka, the Maldives, and Indonesia. Now we understood what is history, its classification, and what was the geographical impact. Let's move further on to this chapter. Next, we are going to learn about the terms that are used to describe India. As we all know, our country is called by India, but in medieval period it was being called by other different names like Sapta Sindhu. It means it is a land of 7 rivers. Aryavartha, which means it's a land of Aryas. Bharatavarsha means a land of King Bharata, and Indica. In the Arabic and Persian literature of the medieval period, the Indian subcontinent is referred to as Hind, and the people who lived here are referred to as Hindus. Another theory says that the word Hindu was derived from the Sanskrit word Indu. Indu is a drink of the Vedic people. So, the Hindus were the people who drank Indu, and the land where they lived later came to be called as Hindustan. Here, the next question that comes to our mind is how this medieval history was discovered. Historians depended on different sources for reconstructing the history. The sources for the medieval period of India are many, and it can be divided into 2 categories. They are non-literary source and literary source. Non-literary sources are those which are not in written form, means the history is not written. For example, coins, monuments, or the paintings. These are some of the important examples of non-literary source. Literary sources are the written sources that tell us about the past. For example, inscriptions, biographies, autobiographies, novels, and epics. These are the examples of the literary sources. The literary source is again divided into 2 categories: indigenous source and written accounts by foreigners. Inscriptions and manuscript are the 2 examples of the indigenous sources. Now let us study about all these sources in detail one by one. Coins. The study of coins is called as numismatics. The coins was one of the most important sources that helped in reconstructing the medieval history. These coins were issued by the rulers of different kingdoms in India. These coins also tell us about the kingdoms and also in which particular period the ruler had ruled. And it also provides the information about the rulers, their special interest, and their achievements. Monuments and buildings. These also provide an information about the period during which they were built. Temples and mosques can tell us not only of the religious practices but also about the political, economic, and social conditions of that time. Mosques like Jama Masjid in Delhi, forts like those of Delhi and Agra, palaces like those at Jaipur and Jodhpur. Paintings. Painting is also an example of one of the non-literary sources. They illustrate the artistic processes of that time. These paintings also tell us about the nature of the society, the way of dressing, the customs followed, and the important events and the life of the common people. So now we came to know what is non-literary source and what are the examples in detail. So now let's move further. We will study what are the literary sources. Literary sources. Literary sources consist of inscriptions, historical writings, biographies, autobiographies, plays, novels, and epics. Literary sources are of two types: indigenous literature and accounts of foreigners. Indigenous sources. Writings composed by the people of India are known as indigenous literature. Inscriptions and manuscripts are the two examples of the indigenous literature. Inscriptions. Before the widespread use of paper, inscriptions were a useful way of engraving messages for large audiences. The study of inscription is known as epigraphy. Several copper-plate inscriptions were found in and around the temples in South India. Inscriptions belonging to the Chalukya period have been found at Aihole and Pattakkallu in Karnataka. Inscriptions could be short, such as a two-line dedications to the temple or an idol. They could be a long poems praising the achievements of the rulers. Manuscripts. The manuscripts came to be written on palm leaf, cloth, bamboo leaf, birch bark, and paper. They were composed in different Indian languages and scripts. Important biographies that describe the lives and achievements of the rulers include Rajatarangini by Kalhana, written in 12th century CE. It tells us about the king of Kashmir. Vikramankadeva Charita was written by a Chalukyan writer Bilhana in 11th century CE. Describes the achievement of the king Atirajendra Chola. Prithviraj Raso was composed by Chand Bardai in 12th century CE. It is the account of the life of famous Rajput ruler Prithviraj Chauhan. Written accounts by foreigners. Medieval India saw several foreigners visiting the land as travelers, as students, and as pilgrims. Al-Biruni, a Persian traveler, came to India with Muhammad Ghazni in 11th century CE. He wrote a treatise called Tahqiq-e-Hind. This book contained a wealth of information on culture and economy of medieval India. Batuta of 14th century. He is a Moroccan traveler, wrote about Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Marco Polo, an Italian ambassador in the court of Chinese Emperor Kublai Khan. He wrote an interesting account of social customs and culture of South India. Baburnama. It's an autobiography of Mughal Emperor Babur of 16th century CE. Akbarnama. It's a biography of Emperor Akbar by Abul Fazl of 17th century CE. Contains the detailed descriptions of life during the Mughal rule. After a careful study of these various sources of information, many of which are not always continuous or authentic, historians have tried to recreate the history of medieval India. We will begin our study of medieval period from 1700 CE. It's a period that commenced soon after the death of Harsha. We explored when it began, how it got its name, and the changes that shaped that time. I hope you understood everything and enjoyed the stories from the past. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed learning with me today. Now it's time to test your memory and see how much you have learned. In the part 2, we will play a fun and interactive quiz based on this video. So get ready to challenge yourself, beat your own score, and maybe even play with your friends and parents. Just click the link for the part 2, Quiz on Medieval History, and let's find out how well you remember our lessons. Don't forget to like, subscribe, so you never miss any lessons or quiz.